LogRhythm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns in application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logRhythm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team's skills up to date. IT Pro TV's team solution provides group pricing and access to their supervisor portal. You'll gain full control over your team's training schedule, see individual and group analytics, and more. IT Pro TV does IT live every day, so you know you're getting the most current IT training. Go to itpro.tv/enterprise security and use the code ES30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly. If you are a security professional, you're going to want to look at SANS Hackfest, November 13th through the 20th in Bethesda, Maryland. It is the most offensive-focused training event of the year, so if you're interested in how people are actually breaking into your networks, and you want to do some fun stuff like Net Wars with Coinapalooza, Cyber City missions, and a super secret challenge, you want to go to Hackfest. The summit is the 13th and the 14th. It'll be 2 days of informative and technical talks led by none other than Ed Scotus. I will be speaking there. My talk is how to defend against pen testers and win. You can save $300 off your ticket by going to sans.org/Hackfest. And if you're registering for the summit, you get $300 off if you use the code HACKFEST17. So make sure you check that out. We're going to talk about security operations and endpoint protection. Matt, you had a list of companies that you've been working with and analyzing for some time, which I'm assuming relate to our topic for today.
A little bit, yeah. You know, the operations center is interesting, right? At RSA, you know, we bought the NetWitness product and really started looking at how do you bring packet and log data together to drive the SOC and Archer set kind of on top of that. So I've always had, you know, kind of this interest in the security operations center itself, right? And so that was kind of the de facto, right? And what you're starting to see now is some very interesting technologies starting to come up where they don't need a lot of hardware on premise, right? NetWitness has their decoders and their concentrators to pull all this network traffic and the log data to put it to the SOC. So you started to see interesting shifts of just grabbing the network data and sending it up to the cloud, and then analyzing it up there, get the horsepower out of the cloud environment, and, you know, start to run your analytics routines and your ML and all that other fancy stuff, right? And so you're starting to see a new wave of some of these SOC tools start to come. And two of them that come to mind, obviously, for me are ProtectWise here in Colorado, Scott Chasen's company, where they've been, you know, working for the last few years on really streaming that data up, getting it in the platform, not only doing retrospective analysis, but also what are all those new threat actors and how do you respond faster? And so very interesting tech. And then the announcement at Black Hat, right before Black Hat, we did on the Black Hat Summary Show a couple of weeks ago on Startup Security Weekly, company called JASK.ai, right? Again, I think a similar approach to ProtectWise, leveraging analytics and ML really to try to help improve the level 1 SOC analyst role in kind of finding the needles in the haystack and then, you know, moving those resources up into level 2 and level 3. So those are two that just pop out right away.
You know what's interesting, Matt? Have you seen, there's two new vendors that I think are trying to create a new category. One is Awake Security. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen them.
So what they
I talked to them.
Have you talked to them, Michael?
Yeah.
So let me try and explain what I think they do and where their benefits are.
They're going to be on Startup Security Weekly, Paul.
Yes, yeah, and that's how we got engaged with them, right? So they say, well, you're a SOC analyst, you're looking at all the results of all your tools and analyzing it, and you come to the conclusion that, like, this host is interesting. Your next logical question, having done this type of analysis myself, especially working in a university, I was like, well, what is that? Like, what is it? What does it normally do? Like, what applications does it run normally? What protocols does it talk? Like, put a frame of reference around maybe what I've just discovered that can either force me to do some more investigation or say, no, that's what that machine does. In other words, my alert was some Windows-based event. I go to someone like Awake and they say, well, no, based on analyzing this device for some time via network traffic, it's really not Windows, it's really Linux. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about that. Or maybe it's something more interesting. So they're providing those insights to the SOC analyst that in being an analyst in security operations, the inevitable question is, well, what is that? And I guess what they're banking on is, Michael, and some of the conversations I had with them, like, so you're basically throwing off the table that any organization out there, and I agree with them on this point, by the way, any organization out there, you have no idea what your assets are, who should own them, what protocols they're talking. Like, there's just no way to do that in the enterprise today. Was that your assessment, Michael, or did you have a different take on it?
Well, I mean, I think ServiceNow would tell you that they have solutions for it, and I'm still waiting for ServiceNow to move more aggressively into this space. But if we flip back to that point, when I talked to Gary at Awake, one of the things that he said that really kind of impressed me was, and I actually love Matt's experience on this. He said, we started asking all these people in the SOC, like, describe your job. Like, give me 3 words that describe your job. And he's like, we didn't hear, I'm excited, I like it. He's like, I dread it, I'm always wrong, and everything else. And then, he was talking about the number of tools that it takes these days and the number of steps in order to chase something down. And it's this whole, and he's not the only one who's brought this up to me recently. We have this really weird cycle in this quest of, but I'll get you better data. 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 P.S. You only have to check 17 screens, right? And this whole one single pane of glass thing, some people will say, oh, we can totally do it. Others will say, it's a farce. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but the point is, if you're that analyst and you're in the SOC, you don't get to do the fun stuff that we talked about. You're not threat hunting. You're not on the exciting part of it. You're on the, if I'm wrong, I'm probably fired. And if I'm right, but it pisses people off, I'm also probably fired, or at least no one likes me. By the way, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's certainly the impression that people get. Oh, and I've got all these tools and all this stuff to do. And, I call it risk catnip. You're chasing a lot of stuff. It feels good in the moment. It's not necessarily providing a ton of value, and it's really tough to get around. And Awake is saying, what if we could cut through some of that? What if we stopped giving you so much noise and we made it possible to let the humans do what humans are good at again? On its face, I love it. I don't think I got as deep into how it actually functions as you did. But Matt, even with that, as you're looking at these tools, are these new tools looking at that? Are they saying, hey, we know I can't staff a SOC with 10 analysts. I can maybe get 1 or 2, or I've got to push out to an MSP. And so they need to know that this is actually worth looking at. So instead of having to go to 15 tools, I'm going to be able to pull it all together, and I'm going to give them one display, or I'm going to give them, maybe not an alert. Somebody a couple years ago said, we don't do alerts, we do confirmations. Oh, okay. Neat way to change the discussion. P.S. That company got sold. So I don't think they marketed themselves very well. But
Respond software, does that ring a bell? That's in the same space, from my estimation.
Yeah, that's another one that they just announced a couple weeks ago. So I think the problem's right in that, look, there's a ton of data. The question is how best to sift through the data and make the SOC 1 analyst more effective, right? And there's a debate on, do I need endpoint information, log information, network information, et cetera? Some people will tell you, look, the network doesn't lie. That's all I need. And I think that's kind of ProtectWise's stance is, look, we're pulling actual packet capture data. We can see everything on the network. So we have a really good handle on what's there. And they think they can do better analytics and drive to that confirmation outcome, right? Others will say, yeah, it's that, but I also need some log and I need some of this and some of that. And so I think JASK is kind of more that approach where it's a combination of things, bringing that together. What they're all trying to do is they're trying to make that level 1 analyst job a little less daunting because there's just so much data. I don't know that I don't know how well some of these have actually worked, but I know some of these guys are getting really good traction over the old way of doing it, which was, well, let me shove everything into the SIM and see if that works.
Right.
That's not working.
We know
right?
that didn't work.
Right, it didn't work, and it's not working, but that's still the main tool that a lot of these analysts attempt to use, and it's just it's not helping at all. And then even the NetWitness packet and log combination seemed to have helped, but it's still hard, right? And it's really expensive. So how much money?
RSA incorporates an endpoint component in there as well, correct? They have an agent that does some stuff as well.
Yeah, they have an agent that also fits into that part of the portfolio to help with grabbing some of the forensics data off, like what's running in memory and some other stuff. It was an acquisition they did after NetWitness. ECAT is what they call it. Mm-hmm. And so that plays, but it plays as part of, wait, something looks wrong. Let me get the ECAT agent out there, then pull some of the stuff, out of memory or off disk, and tie that into the whole incident response process and part of that investigation work. That still means the alert had to be right for you to go get ECAT on the device to pull the forensics to do the investigation to decide, okay, good, or false alarm, move on, right? And so, how do you bring all that together?
What a lot of organizations will do is deploy Carbon Black to all of their workstations and integrate that into this whole mix. It kind of speaks to my enchanting quadrants, right? Like you pull from network, you pull from logs, you pull from endpoints, and maybe you have a threat intelligence source as well to round out the four. But correlating all that data together, like what product does that? Everyone uses something different, right? So a Python script, like what? Yeah.
Well, you've got CrowdStrike, you have Carbon Black, even some of the Cylance stuff, right? You see those guys. But what's the best platform to integrate in? If you're integrating into your SIM, think about the fidelity loss of taking all that really cool endpoint detection and response data and then shoving it into a SIM. I just, it doesn't work. So what is that platform?
Well, have you looked at what Bay Networks is doing? Because one of the things that I and we had Steven on the startup show, but what's kind of interesting is like they're kind of like, if you've already got something in all the enchanted quadrants, Paul, they're saying, okay, look, we've got a fabric and we're going to pull from whatever you've got and we're going to give you a better picture, and PS, we're going to put a dollar value to it so that you've got a way to show value. In fact, I looked at it as you've got a way to show value. They looked at it as more as where to prioritize your actions based on value. Matt, are you seeing like how let's use that. First of all, I'm curious if you've seen what Bay Dynamics is doing and if you like it or not. But then in that same realm, I'm kind of curious, how do we know if these things are working? Like what should we be looking for as a sign that, yep, that's good. That's giving us value. We're better with this than we were without it.
Yes. Well, I'll try to answer both of those. So
I know I gave you like two really simple questions.
Yeah, a couple softballs. Thanks. But I've seen Bay, and I track Bay for a long time. I think of Bay as more of a proactive tool, not a reactive tool. And what I mean by that is more in the threat vulnerability management side, right? So look, I see vulnerabilities in devices, applications. Here's my threat intel. Let me help you prioritize where potential risks and activities are. I see that more on the proactive side, competing with Kenna, RiskSense, NopSec, et cetera. Okay, that's traditionally where Bay is played. I don't think they have the scale to take that and drive the SOC with it, based on what I've seen. So that's kind of where I put Bay. Your second question, remind me what the second question was again.
How do we measure it? I mean,
how do we measure it?
Like how do we know if it's good?
This is the hard part, right?
Agreed.
Is you try to extract out value, right? Is value shrinking detection window times? Is it responding faster? I mean, we really have to start thinking about, look, I think the average is still 6 months to detect an attack. Think about how long it takes us to respond after that. Are those the appropriate metrics? Looking at different aspects of the kill chain, and can we shrink those down? It's hard, right? Because you don't know necessarily until after the fact, right? So does it mean I have fewer breaches? Does it mean I detected a potential breach in 3 months instead of 6 months? Those are potential metrics, but this is where some of the ProtectWise stuff I think is interesting to me in this concept of retrospection. When I find a breach, can I now go back in time, learn to see where the original penetration came from, and start to extract out ways to find them in the future, right? So this concept of retrospection, go back, okay, what was all infected? When was it infected? How was it infected? Does that help me drive better detection response for the next one? Think about most of the tools. They throw the data away, right? They're like getting all this data. They don't keep it very long. How are you going to go back and learn from it? It's really hard unless you're storing massive amounts of this data, which I don't think most people do.
So do you think we're not asking that question enough then? Like, are we kind of at that point where like, it's all really bad, and so use me, I'll be better? Like, is this like the Blinky Lights 2.0? And instead of actually showing people systematically how to improve their operations, we're just selling them the next thing that, we kind of hope, cross our fingers, trust us, you're getting better for it?
Well, what I'm hoping is this value extraction starts to come in some of these spaces, right? I'm hopeful that can we start to extract out real value from these next tools? I had a really interesting discussion with Greg Martin at JASK. I think they have a pretty good handle on the problem. I think they are starting to articulate where their value is. I've had the same conversations with Scott Chasen over at ProtectWise. They do some really good stuff. It's like, how do you extract that out and really explain it to people, and driving some value benefit out the other side for them? And so hopefully as we, maybe Friday when we get into more of the category stuff a little bit, we can get into this a little more, but we've got to figure out how these tools solve these problems and provide value back into these organizations, because just saying we're the next 2.0 or next gen blinky light thing, it's not going to be enough.
No, even as Gartner tells us that the spend is on the rise, and everybody else tells us, right, what they say, budgets are up 7% this year. By the way, every time Gartner says that, and I go talk to actual CISOs, they always go, yeah, I wish. Not for me, man. I don't know where they got that data from. But I look at it, like you do, Matt, when I look at value, right? So what problem are you trying to solve? What's the value? Value for me is a priority statement. Like, does of the 100 problems I've got to try to solve, are you cracking a dent, let's say, in my top 5? And or are you taking something else completely off my plate and you're freeing up my time, my energy, my resources to go focus on something else? And a lot of times when I ask people this question in security, they just go, well, it's security. Like, there's no value. And we all know, at least on this, we all know that's not true. But I accept that it's not the way security's been wired to think for 20 years. It's not the way we think about it. But as we see these types of things permeate up more and more into the executive suite and the boardroom, the question then is, if you're trying to solve one of these problems, can you articulate that problem in a way somebody else understands it? And then when you've made that decision, and P.S., this is not new. I've been to a lot of CIO conferences. Somebody wins an award for some project. They sit down at the table, and I'm the dude who says, cool. So how did you guys justify it? And when you got to it a year later, congratulations on your award. Was it worth it? Was the stuff you said it would do, did you deliver on that? Did you get the scale you promised at the price that you thought, at the savings you expected? I haven't had a person yet look me in the eye and say, yeah, absolutely, here. Or, no, but here's why it worked. They'll just go, I don't know, dude, but I won an award for it. Isn't that good enough? No. You knew how to bullshit and tap dance. Congratulations. But and I'm not knocking these vendors. These vendors might be great. It's just more of we've got to get to this point where you want to go get budget and buy-in, then you have to be able to start demonstrating that your choice increased value in the organization. If not, I don't know how you're doing it. And we've got to start asking these questions, because otherwise I don't see it. And you're right. Talking about detection, I still look at time saved. Like if you're telling me right now that 85% of the alerts you're getting are false positives, and time, how long it takes some of your analysts to chase that stuff down, tell me how much time then you're wasting. If you can cut that down, I think that's a value. Do you agree with that, Matt, or is that maybe a too simplistic way to look at it?
It's an outcome on the other side, right? Is that I can reduce wasted time, I can reduce the number of resources because of chasing false positives. So yeah, there is value in that. I truly believe there is value in that reduction, especially with where we are from a skill set shortage and in all the things that are out there. Most of these resources and most of these skill set shortages are in the SOC. For part of what you laid out earlier, right? It's a hard job. It's a lot of stress. It's not a lot of fun. It's hard to get people to sit butts in seats and look at 17 monitors, fearing that they miss one or they find the wrong one, right? So anything I can do to take aspects of the resource people problem either out or make them more efficient is valuable based on where we currently sit in the security environment.
I think one of the interesting things for me that could be devastating for an organization is if you have a SOC that is trying to identify indicators of compromise or bad inside of your network. If they're wrong, it erodes the trust with the other operations groups within the organization such that they're ignoring those alerts. And that could be, it's hard to measure the devastating effects of that over time until maybe there's a breach or some other kind of incident that causes some significant financial or reputation damage to that organization.
Yeah, trust is still a big issue here. And I've said this for a few years now. We're not going to get to full automation until we continue to build trust. And trust starts with the analytics and trusting that analytics to start to do our incident response practices. And if we don't build that trust, we're never going to get to the full nirvana of automation, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, this is a big part of it. And so I think some people are a little worried that, they can't, if they do the wrong thing to the wrong one, it's eroding trust. We have to continue to improve here. Analytics will help, but analytics are going to have to start to move us substantially forward, right? Everybody talks about machine learning and artificial intelligence, but who's actually really doing it well? Who's moving the needle on making vast improvements into the detections and really saying, yeah, guys, I have high confidence. This is something that has to happen, right? I think there's a couple vendors starting to get there. I'm just not sure we have enough of that yet. Yeah. Although a lot of people talk about it, the proof's not there yet. Until it's there, we don't build the trust.
And that's why you should continue watching and listening to Enterprise Security Weekly. And with that, we're going to take a short break, come back, and talk about enterprise network monitoring, kind of the first in a series of segments on enterprise network monitoring. Stay tuned.